blockchain comes from gaming, and that's how a lot of the Web2 users have been welcomed into Web3. And so to start, we have Anthony from Foundry 6, we have Alex from Sky Meta, and Graeme from QXR Studios. We'll start off, please, with introductions of yourself and what you're currently working on, and then take from there.
Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. I'm surprised there are this many people here for the last talk of the day. So this is exciting. So we're Foundry 6. We're building a real-world fantasy game using augmented reality. So it's essentially like a global escape room with Lord of the Rings undertones. We want people to walk around with their friends, go on hikes, collect legendary loot, and then battle bosses together. Right now it's on mobile devices, and then we're working with Niantic and Meta to start transitioning a lot of that experience onto headsets, so that one day in the future we can all kind of have a joint AR fantasy experience together. So that's what we're working on, and then obviously the blockchain element comes with all of our items. We see this world where, if we do have this gigantic AR Ready Player One game working, the players are going to want to own those items. They're going to want to have that freedom to trade them with each other, to do other things with it. Ultimately, it's about like building as a centralized company, and then slowly giving people control over their assets so that they can own this gigantic platform.
Thank you. Alex?
Yeah, hey, I'm Alex. I'm from Sky Meta. So we started off as a guild back in 2021, and at the beginning of this year, we rotated into doing GameFi tools. So basically, we do everything from NFT rentals, we do NFT financing, and more recently, we're launching something at the end of this year to do like NFT minting for games. I think our primary focus is really helping games to build up their community, and also helping them launch. So if any games out there want to have a chat with us, we'd love to talk to you more. But yeah, that's in a nutshell.
Graeme?
Hi there, I'm Graeme Devine, co-founder of QXR Studios. Video game designer, been designing games for over 40 years. Designed Quake 3, one of the Halo games, 7th Guest, 11th Hour. QXR Studios made Metropolis. Metropolis Origins is a collectible card game that happens to be on the blockchain. We've got 3 fabulous things going for the game. It's community, the team that made it, and it's a fabulous game. It's set in a darkly cyberpunk comic future that you really don't want to live in. There's a rabbit running for mayor, the elevators are all on strike, and the game's been out in beta for about a year, and it's kind of fun to play.
Great, thank you so much. Just quickly, in your opinion, what is the most important aspect of building a successful Web3 game? We'll start with Graeme.
I think a fun game. A fun game that's easy to onboard, someone to. You've got to be able to get that first move in. Someone's got to be able to play the game, have the first move, and have the first turn happen very easily, and then a second turn, and then a third turn. So if you think about a game like an RTS game, if you come into an RTS game and it's all of a sudden everything's happening all at once, you're never going to play that game again. But an RTS game introduces things very slowly. And you have to do the same thing with a Web3 game. You can't tell them right away, open your wallet, do all the things in, go do everything all at once. You have to onboard them very slowly and bring people into the game, and then show them how to make the move, then show them how to build a deck, then show them how to build how to build things onto the deck, then show them how to go into the tournament mode. Show them these add-ons slowly and build them into the game, and then you have them hooked, and then all of a sudden they're playing something very complex, but they started very simple.
Thank you, yeah. I just wanted to ask actually Alex about, the whole tokenomics of play to earn and how it wasn't really sustainable, and you being part of a guild. Where do you see that future going into moving forward?
Yeah, I think I think one of the things that we see in the future is really just this focus more on, instead of like scholars, more like on the gamers. The focus is on that. I think just adding to what makes like a really good game is really knowing your audience. Like, are you targeting, for example, guilds? Are you targeting normal, casual, everyday gamers? I think that's really important. Like, for example, we talk to a lot of games, and some of the things that we talked about is like, for example, okay, you want to target guilds. Make sure you have like a guild management system. Like sometimes we talk to games and they're like, oh, how is the guild going to manage it? Do you have like sub accounts, all that? And they're like, no idea how to do that. Okay, well then why would you be saying that your target is a guild then? You should be just targeting everyday casual gamers. So I think like, yeah, for us, we think that, it's really important to know who your audience is. Similar to what Graham's saying, like fun is like the number one thing. I think like, you definitely have to make sure that the focus isn't on just pure earning. I think like we're seeing like with like, all these tokens and all these games, really coming off hard. I think at the end of the day, the games that really sustain is the ones that are still, able to be fun to play and, people still enjoy. I mean, there's definitely still people, for us, the different guilds that we talk to, there's actually people still playing Axie Infinity, even though they're not making money playing it, but it's just because, they're still enjoying that card game aspect of it. And then, yeah, I think like that's really, the focus, knowing your community, having the right kind of tools to utilize that.
Great. And then for Anthony, I wanted to discuss like, how do you know like when you're building your game, who's your target audience, or how do you know which demographic, which age group would be interested in your type of game, for example?
Well, I mean, to Graham's point, like we're just trying to build a fun game for our target demographic. So, when we are building our RPG game, it's not rocket science. We're going to the traditional RPG demographic. I think there was obviously a time last year where it got convoluted, and instead of going to the core demographic of your game, fantasy, FPS, whatever it might be, people were just trying to find people who were going to speculate with these tokens.
Yep.
And that totally changed the direction of how people were interacting with these games. I mean, it's funny. We've been building our game for over a year now, and we started with the RPG community, and we got them in, and then we actually had this really pivotal moment where we realized, oh shit, traditional RPG players are not actually into blockchain technology, because it just left a bad taste in their mouth. And we're like, oh shit, we have RPG players, and then we have Web3 gamers. There is obviously a Venn diagram that exists there, but that crossover wasn't as big as we were hoping to be. So, now we're just purely focused on bringing in RPG gamers as RPG gamers, and then showing them the value of blockchain. And going, hey, this is the cool aspects of it. Way down the line, they'll play the game, they'll have this crazy adventure, that's why they came to the game. And then later they go, oh shoot, I actually own this. Oh, I can do other stuff with it, I can trade on the marketplace. Maybe there is a way to kind of make money, trading these assets. But it's going back to basics. We're just a game studio. We're not a Web3 game studio. We're just a game studio, and we have blockchain technology that supports it.
I think that's very important, to be honest. And given the current market conditions, and you guys are part of this accelerator, and attracting investment. So what can a founder do to attract investment and extend that runway as much as you can during this situation? I'll go with Graeme first.
It's hard to say you're a blockchain gaming company, because if you look at the biggest game that we compete against, the biggest card game in blockchain right now is 12,000 daily users. I have a solitaire game on the App Store that has 140,000 daily users. So, yeah, if I want to, you can't sustain on 12,000 daily users. You've got to be able to say, I'm going to take on, something that's not there right now in blockchain. So I'm going to go beyond what's already there to by an order of magnitude, and you're going to have to believe me. That's, and that audience is not currently playing blockchain games. So where is that audience going to come from? It's going to come from gamers. It's not going to come from people who bought NFTs last year. It's not going to come from people who bought NFTs 2 years ago. They won't even want to know the word NFTs. They'll be gamers. They'll want to play our game. So what's the attractive thing in our game that is going to make you invest? It's going to be something interesting in the blockchain that's not going to be necessarily just, oh, you'll make 1,000 extra money on a token. So getting from, what's your plan to have 100,000 daily active users within 1 year? That's going to be the interesting thing for investors, and that's what I think is the biggest question facing just any game in our market.
Yeah, I mean, I'd add to that. I think like transitioning, Web2 gamers into Web3, that's like a core thing what we're trying to build too. So for us, we have like a gamer platform. We also have like guild alliance. So we work with like 30 plus guilds, getting their members onto our platform. So one of the things that we deal primarily with, players from Philippines, Thailand. We're also looking at Vietnam as well. So it's like Southeast Asia. And I think the core thing there is that, early on we realized that they're really having a really hard time kind of understanding the whole concept of creating a wallet, writing down seed phrases. It's actually really sad because like early on, a lot of the guys that we worked with, they'd lose all the money that they made, but someone would impersonate us and ask them for like their secret, their keys. And then they'd be like, they put like, one of the things that we dealt with early on was like, some guy would like be like, hey, they're a cheat because like they took our money. And we'd be like, what are you talking about? I don't even know who you are. Like, what do you mean? And then they post a screenshot of some guy pretending to be us with a fake profile asking us for their keys. And so they would give it to them. So I think like, one of the things that we're doing for our platform is we're just helping them to make a simplified wallet. It's just connected to your email and that's it. And then it eventually is exportable into MetaMask. But I think it's like just really like, keeping guys, as simple as possible. And what Graeme was saying, like transitioning Web2 users, like that's like the easiest way for you to get a higher amount of players into your game.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's a great segue to the next question, which I'll go with you, Anthony. What are some of the trends you're seeing now with regards to Web3 gaming? Like, what are we expecting to see?
I mean, I think we're seeing it across the board. It is going back to basics. I mean, Web3 just went through the traditional hype cycle. I mean, that's just exactly what happened. It got really exciting for a short amount of time. I think it burnt really, really fast and really exciting. But now it's dipping, and now we're just trying to find the actual value it brings to the players, the community, whatever it might be. So, we're at the bottom now, but again, there is really cool core underlying tech there. And what we're seeing right now is, our companies, all the companies, in the Bring program, going, okay, wait, let's just take a step back here. Okay, if we took out the speculators, and even though that was exciting, we took out the speculators. What is the actual value that this brings to players? And it's a sense of ownership, it's a sense of community, and you just focus on that. And I think that's what we're seeing right now with all the crazy stuff that's happening in the blockchain space right now. It's actually a really good thing that the speculation is dying off, because now we can actually start building things that actually will survive and last and will matter to players in the long run.
Thank you. And Alex?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Like in terms of speculation, I think like a lot of projects that we talk to, some of them, like it's interesting to see that like one of the things that we're seeing right now is it changes. Like some guys are still stuck in like the beginning of the year where it's like they're still like $400 or $500 for like an NFT, and we're like dude, like who's gonna buy it in this market? Some guys are actually starting to see, okay, maybe to get users on board, it's gonna be like free to play. They let you buy, and then you can buy like an NFT for like $50, and then that makes kind of like a little bit more sense, because if you were to go out today and buy a PS5 game, it's probably about $50 to play, right? So I think like that's really I think the goal of everybody in order to get users on board, and kind of like what we're seeing is like this kind of like move towards free to play. But at the same time, like back to Anthony's saying, I think like the core focus of why you want blockchain gaming is, I don't know if any of you guys are big like World of Warcraft players, but I was back in the day, and I like the thing is like Blizzard makes all the money. Like they're the ones that you can't pay someone to play your account. You can't pay someone to like, I mean you do, but it's against the terms, So I think like that's kind of like the future, and we see like indie game studios really kind of driving that in the future. Would be like kind of like this, this. It's almost like how Uber disrupted like the taxi industry. Like, that's what we think is kind of like the future of gaming, and how that's going to change. But yeah, that's what I mean.
I agree with all that, but I think there's something else to add to it as well. I think users are looking to explore more about the environment of your game as well. What is the narrative surrounding your game? What is the story to your game? They're not just looking for, what's the cool thing I do on the machine and brr, 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 bing. What is the narrative in your game and the world I can explore that I can get attached to. We've seen this with Marvel Snap. People love that the Marvel universe, and so with Metropolis Origins, we have our motion comics that we bring out weekly. They expand out the narrative universe. Those characters come into the game, and that expands out our narrative universe, and it brings people into thinking about, oh, I want to live in this world, I want to be part of this world, I want this world to be my world. And so as more parts of that world come alive, people feel more associated with it. I think that goes to World of Warcraft, it goes to any great game, any great IP has more to it than just just the game component, the numbers flying off the people's heads. I hate games where I can see the numbers flying off people's heads. That to me is just an Excel sheet. As soon as I can go over the next hill and open a book, then I'm in. And that's the best part of World of Warcraft to me. It's might be in essence of forever. But that's what we have to get to with blockchain gaming. If I can own all the books in World of Warcraft, I'm going to go on an adventure to go, get to the library in Orgrimmar as Alliance. Can you imagine that raid? That would be epic.
Thanks. I think there's a lot of founders here in the room. I'd like to just, last piece of advice on fundraising in this kind of climate, and any advice or any suggestions on joining an accelerator, or what you would suggest or give advice.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you guys know how to fundraise decently, I'll come talk to you. But I think as we talk to the investors right now, we are seeing almost what we're saying. They're going back to basics too. They're going back to the traditional gaming metrics, going, what are DAUs looking like, yada yada. Again, there's still an aspect of that of like how, is there a way to kind of bring in a community faster with the people who are in that Venn diagram of Web3 plus really passionate about gaming, and using that to build out some early communities who are invested in what you're doing. But again, it's back to basics. Like, is this an exciting game? Do you have a community who find it to be exciting? And if you do, let's see you grow it, and it's that simple.
Alex, any advice to?
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky. We started raising back in beginning of this year, so it was much different. A lot happened in 11 months. But yeah, I mean, I think what Ray said earlier was best. Just make sure you're focused on something. Make sure you're aiming to be the best at what you can be in that one thing. For us, our biggest backer was Blizzard, the Avalanche Ecosystem Fund, and the reason that was because we saw that Avalanche as a chain had kind of like the best games, so that's why as a GameFi tools and also guild, we want to be part of Avalanche. So that for us, I think it's just like finding out and knowing who your investor is, when you're talking to them, and just focusing on making sure that you have the right backers. So you have the right idea of what you want to focus on, and then finding those people that go.
That's great advice, because you have a lot of these, layer ones giving grants, or they used to before. I mean, they're starting to drop a little bit, but there's, like you said, there's different investors for different, strategic investors. Graeme, any advice to founders or game makers?
Yep. Know what you don't know. We didn't know how to pitch. We were great at making games. Awesome, fabulous team at making games. The Avengers. But we didn't know how to pitch. So an accelerator, and the Brink Accelerator, has been great for us in going through the process and being the honest feedback and taking the honest feedback and absorbing the honest feedback on the chin. And it's been great. That has been excellent for us. So that's been really, really good. And I'd say for the times are thin. This is a time for believing in yourself and your team, even when it's uncomfortable to believe in yourself and your team. And we do.
I do want to add just one quick thing. Like, again, I think I think you guys should talk to the Brink team to get more of the macro data. But at least from what I've been seeing, like maybe like raising a large seed round or like standard seed round might be getting a little harder in the gaming space, but in terms of like gaming accelerators, it feels like that is actually expanding. So if you're like really early, and you want to get some early capital to play around with your games, obviously the accelerator we just went through, but there are a bunch of funds in LA that are doing early gaming stuff, and so it feels like the accelerator ecosystem for games is actually growing, where maybe later stage might be tightening up. I don't know if that's completely true, but it feels that way.
Thanks.
Yeah, actually, I'd add to Brink has been a really good experience. Like it's really it's really impressive. I think the people that we've had come through to teach us different things, and even though we kind of finished our round of raising before we started, it was still really good to get like a lot of feedback on pitching and all the other things.
And the other cohorts.
Yeah, and then meeting the other cohorts.
Great. I'd like to open the floor if anyone has a question.
So one of the famous interview questions that Graeme has back in the day when he used to work at Magic Leap was creating a game with just sound, no visuals. Like, so if you had to update those interview questions for the Web3 world, what would you be your go-to interview questions for a upcoming game designer in Web3?
I have a new one. I have the car rule for the metaverse. Is it okay to give the car rule real quick? So the car rule is I can own a car. Actually, we all know the car rule. It comes from Animoco, but the car rule is basically, I can own a car, I can rent a car, I can sell a car, I can put stickers on my car, I can put gasoline in the car, I can drive it up a cliff. If I can't do that with an object that I own it in the metaverse, then it's not really a metaverse, and that's a walled garden, and so you're describing to me a walled garden and not a metaverse. So that's my metaverse rule.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, please.
The blockchain game, if good, of course, game developer make good games, and if they I know the team like game developers, and also they work with the blockchain engineers, blockchain developers. If the team is different team, because game developers is already made the good games. If they working together, how they can make a good team and good quality of a game in on the blockchain field.
I'm sorry, the question is just how to get the teams to work together?
Yeah.
Oh. I mean, I'll just talk about our team. We have a small team, but on our team at least, I was about to say that you might want to silo them, have them work in different parts, but actually our game developers are also working on the blockchain side of it, so they're kind of integrated in that sense. And now that I think about it, as things are developing in the Web3 space, it probably makes more and more sense for the developers to be talking to the blockchain team or know what's going on there, because that user experience has to be super smooth. Like you don't want it to be like fun, wait, wallet, MetaMask, it's going to be super cumbersome. So, I have them communicate as much as possible. Might be a good way to go.
Okay, thank you. I know blockchain engineers, and I'd like to work with game developers, but most of our game developers in Japan, I'm from Japan, is not making a blockchain game, not yet. So I just wondered, I just wanted to ask if you have any.
I think on both teams you need one of the opposite. So on your game team, you need someone who's really familiar with blockchain and can understand the value of adding blockchain here. And on your blockchain team, you need someone who is very familiar with games or how a typical game works. And this is the value of us adding some game logic here. Otherwise, you're going to end up with mismatched interfaces. And I think that's one of the big things that I see in blockchain all the time is we'll get pitched something and it's like, well, that's just way easier to do on AWS, I'm sorry. And sometimes it is way easier to do on AWS and cheaper. And so you've got to have both on both ends to really understand to make that connection work really well. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
How do you know how far you take an idea? Like, how do you know at what point do you either stop investing time, resources, money, or you say, no, this, we have something here, let's keep going. How do you measure yourselves?
Graeme, I think you.